Hey there, and welcome to the Do Life Big podcast. This podcast is going to be your jam if you want to live to your full potential and don't believe in half-assing anything in your life. If we want to do life big, that means we've got to get out of our own way because we only have this one shot to make it awesome. I'm your host, Kathi, and I'm a mom of three whose BFF is cold brew, a retired school teacher turned online entrepreneur, and an author. I'm loud, bold, and will always keep it real. I'm determined to live my best freaking life possible, and I'm here to help you do the same. I'll be packing this podcast with tips, motivation, inspiration, and strategies to finally get you where you want to go. And we will have a ton of laughter along the way because, let's be honest, we can't ever take ourselves too seriously, right? I'm so excited you are here with me today. Now let's get this party started. Hey, my friend, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of Do Life Big. I am so excited to have you here listening to the show today because we have a very special guest, Mikel, here with us. Hey, Mikel, how's it going?
Hey, that's good. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast. You guys are going to love listening to today's show because she is just like the master in anything health, wellness related. So I think it'd be awesome if you could just start out by just telling us, what you do and who you help.
Thanks so much, Kathi.
Yeah.
So as I was very nicely introduced, my name is Mikel Segal, and I'm a physician and wellness coach. And I work mainly with midlife women and really, who are kind of struggling with either their health or not feeling as good as they did in their 20s and are just really looking for ways to optimize their health and well-being. There's often a shift in midlife. If you have kids, they're getting older, or maybe you're kind of been in a certain career for a while and you're kind of wondering, is this it, or is there anything more? Maybe kind of wanting to make some changes, but just not sure how. So that's sort of the women that I work with and finding ways to sort of optimize their health and well-being.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. And I like to always ask too, because it's so interesting hearing just the path of being an online entrepreneur. Did
Yeah.
you always do this? Were you doing something before, or what kind of gave you the idea to go down this
Yeah.
online entrepreneurial path?
It's interesting. So, I mean, obviously, like I went to medical school. I went straight from university to medical school. I did my residency in family medicine and started working as a family doctor. But I always felt like I wanted to do something more and different. I do enjoy, and I still work as a physician part-time, but I do enjoy sort of helping people in that aspect of medical care, but I was always like searching for something else. And like, this was even like, pre-Google and, I think the internet was around, but it's just not in the same way that it is now, obviously. So there was no Facebook, let's put it that way, to like
Right.
connect with people. So I was always like just looking for other ways to connect and to do other things. And eventually I was at a conference. I found myself sort of more connected with longevity, lifestyle medicine. I was at a conference and I discovered this physician who was doing coaching. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. And so then I went down that rabbit hole of coaching. I was like, oh, I can see myself doing that. So did my certification, started looking into, so how do you go about coaching people? And then sort of found my way into the world of business, obviously through coaching. But I love the sort of the creativity that comes with being an entrepreneur. And I love coaching people and helping people this way. So it was just like a perfect match.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So when these women come to you looking for help, is there like an underlying or common, not underlying, but is there like a common like theme with those women of what they're looking for help with? Like, is it like one specific area? Because I know you touch on like so many different things and can help with so many
Yeah.
different areas, but do they come to you and say like, I'm feeling like low on energy, or I just feel like, I can't lose the weight, or I'm just constantly stressed all the time, or is there
Yeah.
like a reoccurring
Well,
theme?
it's funny. I mean, because people, so, often they'll come with one issue, like, their energy's low or they're wondering where to go in their career. But, as soon as you kind of get into things, you find there's a lot more, right? And
Yeah.
there's more pieces to it than what they initially come to you with. And it's also, I find that, we all struggle with the same issues when it comes down to it, in different ways, but the themes are always the same in terms of like finding purpose in life, finding meaning, wanting to
Yeah.
feel our best so that we can, so that we can show up as our best self.
Yeah.
And, and also as women, we are, we're focused on sort of helping others. So that's a common theme, but it's, there's a common thread amongst us as human beings. So that's kind of neat to
I know.
see.
That is really neat. That's crazy though. Do you anything with like hormones with women at all? Do you talk on that at all, or help people help regulate that at all?
Of course, I mean, I think hormones are a huge piece of our general health and wellness, and then especially like midlife women who are sort of starting to get into perimenopause and
Yeah.
menopause. Hormones are a huge piece of that. So it's definitely something, an approach that I consider and talk about. I mean, I don't act as when I'm coaching, I'm obviously not their medical doctor, but
Right.
because I have the knowledge and that piece, I definitely think it's important to make sure that you consider that when you start to feel a bit off, it needs to be considered and analyzed and addressed.
Yeah.
Um, Hormones
Totally.
are a huge piece, yeah. And they can be, there's other ways to kind of optimize your hormones, but it is a piece of the wellness puzzle for sure.
Yeah, I know. I
And
feel like once you hit 40, it's like it just goes, I don't know,
yeah,
downhill.
yeah, I know.
It
And
doesn't
that's the
have to be
thing.
that way.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, that's what happens, right? And then you're like, oh, wait a second, what is going on here? Okay, maybe I need to do something a bit different now. And that's
Right.
really the key piece is like just acknowledging, okay, I can't do things like I used to. And
Yeah.
then that's sort of where I help, like, okay, so what do we need to shift here and what do we have to look at and so that we can start feeling better and
I love that.
yeah.
I love that so much. And because one of the things that you wrote about that you help with is just like the whole idea of longevity. And I have been like
Yes.
obsessed with that recently. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking, I've been
Yeah.
like, I watched like the Blue Zones on
Yes.
Netflix. Have you seen that?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen the, I mean, I've heard them speak a few times. I actually haven't seen the documentary on Netflix, but I'm
It's
familiar
really
with
good. It's
them.
really interesting.
Yeah,
You should watch it.
yeah,
And then like I've been all into, okay, I want to get all my blood work done. And I don't know if you've heard of Function
yes,
Health. It's called
yes.
Function Health. Yeah.
Functional medicine. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
there was like this, it's company, it's all online, and
yeah,
they basically it's like $500, and you can
yeah,
go and they do like over 100 like different biomarkers that they test for, and it will just show
yeah,
you like what's on level, what's not, what you
yeah,
should supplement with, what you are low on for vitamins and deficiency and all of that. So I've been like really going down that rabbit hole.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
My
yeah,
kids are always like, "How long are you going to live? Do you think you're going to make it to 100?" And I'm like, "I'm going to make it to 100."
yeah, yeah. Oh,
That's the
yeah.
goal.
You will for
You
sure.
will. So
Yeah,
I'm just curious, like there's so much here that I'm interested in terms
yeah,
of like longevity and sleep, like especially too with the sleep. I remember I went so long when I first started my first business, like 11 years ago, it was a health and wellness business. And I
yeah.
remember I was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, I
Yes.
don't need the sleep.
I
I'll
know.
stay awake all night long. Like, and that's literally what I did for so long. I would like work at my
I
kitchen
know.
counter from like 8 o'clock at night once the kids went to bed until like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And I
Yeah.
was so burnt out and so exhausted. And
Yeah.
now that I'm like 43, I'm just
Yeah.
like, those days are gone. Like, sleep is so important. I need to prioritize my sleep because everything I feel like rises and falls on the sleep that you get the night before.
Totally.
So, what do you have to say about that in your expertise?
Okay, well let's talk about the sleep first.
Mm,
I mean, because sleep is connected to longevity like in a
definitely.
huge way. It's actually probably one of the major pillars of longevity. So I think a lot of us grew up with that mentality, like, the just push through it. Well, certainly like I did, um,
Definitely.
even like through, university and medical school, like, that was my thing. Like I'll just study until like 3 in the morning and
Right.
everything will be great the next day, right? So I think maybe it's shifted a bit in the general like population. It's hard for me to know because I'm so aware of the fact now that how important sleep is, and it shifts our whole physiology. So we need to get deep sleep and we need to get proper REM sleep, and they're both so important to like restore our health because that's like when we sleep, basically our cells are, rejuvenating and they're fixing
Yeah.
themselves. So we need that. It also helps with like memory consolidation and even like our general mental health. Like even losing like, a half an hour of sleep per night, our anxiety levels go up. We know this from studies, like anxiety goes up, our
Yeah.
mood changes. So it's like there's so many key aspects of our health that are affected by our sleep or if we don't get enough sleep. So
Well, what do you say to the person who's like, I can't sleep though, I have insomnia, or like, I've
yeah,
tried, like I hear it. Like I even have friends who are like, I I don't know what to do. I've tried everything and
yeah,
I can't sleep. I'm just like an insomniac.
yeah. Well, I mean well, I would say is so we if they've tried everything, they need to kind of shift and work with someone else because, yeah, it is hard for people who have insomnia. But that, I mean, there might be like a underlying medical disorder that's going on. You could be
Right.
like sleep apnea, um, you know, so there are people that really struggle for sure. Like
Yeah.
hormones, perimenopause can cause huge issues with sleep. So would say like first, like go see a medical practitioner, make sure you don't have some kind of sleep disorder, and then good sleep hygiene, right? So all the things that you need to do to make sure to set yourself up for having a good night's sleep. So going to bed at the same time each night, waking up the same time in the morning.
Oh, going to bed at
Um,
the same time every night. So that's one of
yeah.
those.
Yeah,
Oh,
sleep hygiene. So like there's tons of different little things you can do. So what you need to do is find someone who kind of can go through it all with you and say like, are you doing this? You need to have a really good wind down routine at night. So to get your body ready for sleep. So like you can
oh,
lower the lights, you can turn off half the lights in your house like an hour before your bedtime and just kind of get your body ready for sleep, right?
well, that's a good idea.
You have to have your temperature of your room like at a so you can't have your room too hot. You can't have it freezing either, but it should be on the cooler side because that helps with a better getting you to sleep and a better night's sleep.
Now,
So
what do you
there's
think?
all sorts of things.
Yeah, what do you think? So, because of my husband and I, like, we always like, I'm like crazy. I like to sleep and pretend it's like an ice box in my room.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
When you say like it should be cool, like, what do you think? Like below, a little bit below 70, like 68,
Yeah, like just below, yeah.
just
Yeah,
below
around
70.
that. Yeah, yeah, below room
Okay.
temperature. So yeah, it should generally be lower
Okay.
than what you would have it on in the day.
So not 60.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that works for you, like if you have a nice warm, comfy comforter underneath,
I, d- I do like to sleep like that. Although it doesn't get
Yeah,
that cold here since I'm in Florida, but
yeah,
I do
right.
love it to be so, so, so cold and then just
Yeah,
like a really nice warm blanket
yeah,
around me to feel nice and
yeah,
cozy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that sounds good.
Okay, so that's good. So, all right, so for tips on how to get better sleep, you got to
Yeah,
practice the good sleep hygiene. So, yeah, so going to bed at the same time every single night, like dimming down the lights. Those are all
yeah.
good tips, like an hour before.
And screens obviously are
Oh,
huge.
yeah. That's a hard one to break.
Screens are hard, are really tricky. I mean, you know, there's a bunch of different issues with screens. One is like it depends what you're watching, but if it's something that's quite stimulating, then that can alone cause your sleep to get disrupted because you're thinking about whatever it is that you've been on the
Right.
screen doing. And then there's the light, obviously, with the screen. So the blue light can disrupt your melatonin production, which melatonin is a hormone that's important in sort of the onset of sleep. So try to avoid having light directly in your eyes right before you go to sleep. So
Exactly.
there's that piece of it, so but it is hard because people are so used to, being on their screen before they go
Right.
to bed. So
It is true. And like a lot of people, it's like their way that they wind down at the end of the day. Before it's
yeah,
like, we've been working all day long. We've done all the
yeah,
sports with the kids after school. The
yeah,
kids are finally in bed. We prepared the lunches for the next day. Okay,
yeah,
everything in the kitchen's put away.
yeah.
Let's
That's
go sit down in bed and watch a show.
yeah. Yeah. So I think like again, there's all like I'm not one for like extremes, so I would say like it depends how much your sleep is getting disrupted and probably like watching a show that's, not going to cause your head to spin after is
Yeah.
probably not going to do you huge amounts of harm, but scrolling and watching something quite disturbing or something that, or
Yeah.
reading emails and getting like an upsetting email before bed, obviously that's kind of stuff is going to disrupt your sleep more.
Yeah, it definitely. Like I even noticed like myself, well, I was going through a phase where I was just like, all right, I'll read in bed a little bit and I'll sip on my cup of tea and pretend I'm like 75 years old. Yeah. And I did notice though when I started getting back into just like watching like 30 minutes of a show, nothing
Yeah,
crazy, that
yeah,
I told my husband, I'm like, I cannot watch anything anymore like Dexter or anything that's
right.
going to
Yeah.
produce all this
Oh,
anxiety in me
yeah.
because
I
I
know.
sleep like crap. I go to bed all anxious. It
Exactly.
can't be
Yeah.
good for you. So I'm like, it
Yeah.
has to be
Uh,
something like light and easy and funny and feel good. Otherwise, I
exactly.
just can't do it.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So you figured it out on your own.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, he's like, well, when are we supposed to watch all these other really good movies? I'm like, during the day at
Yeah.
some point on the weekend, not
Yeah.
before I go to sleep.
Yeah. Not right before bed. Exactly. I know. It's tricky
Now,
to
how
get it
much
all
deep
in.
sleep are people supposed to be getting on average? Do you know, like at this age range? Like,
Well, it's kind of a percent. So basically, like so most people need 8 hours of 7 to 8 hours of like good sleep per night. So, and of that, like 20% at least should be deep sleep.
oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So people say, well, I was in bed for 8 hours or 7 hours. Well, that doesn't count. It actually has to be the time that you're actually asleep. And some people it takes like, half an hour to fall asleep. And then in the morning, same thing. And then we don't realize it, but we actually, we have sleep cycles that we cycle through during the night that we go from like light sleep to deep sleep to REM sleep. Then we actually have times when we're awake. And we
Yeah.
might not be awake enough where we're actually like getting up, walking around. But so those are times in the night when we're not actually sleeping. So when you add up all, like if you actually track your sleep, even though you're in bed for 7 hours, you might actually only have like 6 and a bit hours of sleep recorded.
Yeah.
You have to factor that in as well.
Yeah, I have been actually like really getting into the sleep thing.
Okay.
Believe
Yeah.
it. Because I did get, I mean, I don't know it as well as you do, but I do
Yeah.
have one of these rings here,
Oh, the
made of.
Aura Ring. Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
It's like I think it's the
Is
Galaxy
it?
one for the Samsung or the
Oh,
Droid.
okay.
So it's the other one, but it's
Okay.
the same kind of thing,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I am like obsessed with it, like I'm
Okay.
like, all right, I'm gonna take my magnesium supplement before I go to bed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Good.
I'm gonna take that a little scoop in with my water before I go to bed, and then and then I wake up in the morning and I
You
immediately go to
check.
my app on my phone and I'm like, let's see, because it'll
Yeah.
give you the score, like what your score is. It'll tell you like your
Yeah.
energy score. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it's interesting though, like when it really is crappy sleep. Like if I drink alcohol,
Yes. Alcohol is
forget
super
it.
disruptor for sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't sleep, you don't get the good quality restorative sleep with alcohol.
Yeah, you don't get the good sleep
Yeah.
with that. I'm like, oh, I hate drinking because of this. And then I wake up the next
Yeah.
day and I'm like, oh, I just don't feel as like energized and I don't feel as
Yeah.
awake and alert and everything feels
Yeah.
kind of foggy, even if it's just only just a couple drinks, like nothing
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. But enough that it disrupted your sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you have anything else you wanted to say on the sleep area here?
No, just, I mean, yeah, just that I mean, you could go into, we could go into it even more, but I mean, another just one other piece of sleep is that it really disrupts your, like in terms of your blood glucose control, which is also really important for, general health and longevity. And it disrupts your body's in terms of like how it, people, it's connected to like your sort of overall glucose control, the way you like your satiety signals don't
Yep.
work as well if you haven't slept, so you'll often overeat. And so it's connected to that as well. So, people who are trying, who are like, whose blood glucose control isn't great to begin with, it will even get worse. And, if you are trying to sort of follow a specific meal pattern or diet, it can be very disruptive as well.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
So
it
that's a,
affects, I mean, yeah, it affects just so many different parts
it all starts with the sleep.
hormone balance. It all starts with the sleep. Yes.
I know. So if
That's a good
you
segue to the next.
exactly, yeah, exactly. It all starts with the sleep. So if you could, if someone was listening right now and they're like, all right, I need to get better with this whole sleep situation. It's just awful.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the wrong things. Like I'm staying up too late. My house is chaos before I go to sleep. I'm watching TV until I fall asleep. Like all these different things. If like you could tell them like what's the number one thing that they should at least start with or start to implement into change to help improve the sleep, like what would you say
Yeah.
to that person?
Well, I would say, I mean, the first thing I would say is like do something that you know you can do because it doesn't matter what I tell you to do. Like if you can't do that, then what's the point, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's a bunch of different things you could do, but you got to find one that's going to work for you and your house and your family and your life, right? But I think even just I think the first step is just acknowledging like or just having an understanding and a commitment to focusing on your sleep and trying, making changes so that you get 7 to 8 hours of, good quality sleep per night. So that's the start, right?
Yeah.
And then figuring out, so what's the first, what's the easiest changes that I can make in my house or for me in my routine that are going to lead me to the ultimate goal and then go step by step,
Yeah. Baby steps,
baby
one
step.
step at a time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way to do it.
It's
So,
true. Because if you try to do it
yeah,
all at once, you know,
yeah,
you're not going to stick with it. And then you're going to feel defeated and go back to all your old habits.
yeah, yeah. You
One
want
thing
to
at a
set
time.
yourself up for success. So, yeah, and
Yeah.
start with the easy things first.
Yeah, definitely. Now, would you say too that this is still another sleep question?
Yeah.
In terms of like the amount of stress, I don't know if I'm wording this right, but in terms of like either the amount of stress that you get or feel and how you handle it,
Oh, yes.
like being able to cope with stress, is
Yes.
that also all tied
Oh,
to
yes.
directly
Yes.
related to your sleep?
Directly related. Oh, yes. Like I said, even the anxiety, even just like a small amount of missed sleep, the anxiety levels go up. So you just everything feels like a bigger deal. Everything, and then your ability to deal with life's just daily life stressors
Yeah.
become, goes down basically. So yeah. And there's, lots of studies that have showed that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I broke away
Yeah.
from that mentality of I'll sleep when I
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. I know. We've all been there. Yeah.
Because, 5 hours of sleep a night is definitely not going to cut it,
No, it's not. It's just not. But I,
especially
I
not
don't know.
now.
I notice now for sure, like for me personally, like if I don't get a good night's sleep, I just feel awful the next day, just in general.
Yeah.
So
Do you typically get like the good 7 or 8 hours of sleep too? Is it
I
like so important for you?
I I try,
Yeah.
I do make it a priority, but I'm not perfect.
Right.
So,
No.
there
Things happen.
definitely, life happens.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes it's out of my control. And then other times I get stuck with the same issues everyone else does. Like you just find yourself doing something and I'll say, oh, I need to stop doing this so I can go to bed. But,
Yeah. I know
sometimes
it's true. I mean, there's right, exactly. We all go through phases of our life, and there's going to be
sometimes I'll be
things that
like,
are going
how
to
did
happen out
this
of our
happen?
control.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, why didn't I stop this like half an hour ago? So, yeah, I'm pretty good, but I do, I have my nights where I'm like, I should have gone to bed an hour ago. Why?
I know. Sometimes you just get so involved in what you're
Yeah,
doing that it's like,
yeah, it's really
I
hard to
I
stop.
can do it a couple more minutes. I can, a
Yeah,
couple more, 5, 10 more minutes, just one more episode.
yeah, exactly. So,
It's
but
practicing that good
generally,
hygiene, like you said, though. It's like,
yeah, and if you mess up or not mess up, but if you have a night where you haven't gone to bed with giving yourself enough time to sleep, then you'll get a reminder the next day that
yeah, you
you
sure
got to get
will.
back on track, right? And that's all there, and that's simply what you should do though, is just don't give yourself a hard time, just get back on track the next day and just make sure you know,
Yeah. I try to do like what you said, like just about like the good hygiene with this one piece where I'm like, okay, if I like I should really be like asleep by 10:30 every night
yeah,
because then it's
yeah.
like the alarm goes off at like 6 in the morning. And also I have a 5-year-old that wakes me up in the middle of the night
Okay,
and all
there
that
you
stuff.
go. Yeah,
You're gonna throw that into the equation.
yeah,
So I find that like, all right, if I have that, time in my mind, then I know when I get into bed, it's like, okay, well, I only have time to watch this one 20-minute episode of Younger.
yes,
That's a nice,
yeah,
light, funny
right.
movie. If anybody is 40 years old and above and wants to watch
Right.
something funny and like light, that's a good one, versus like being like, oh, whatever, who cares? Let's just stay up till midnight tonight, right? If you have that
Yeah.
time,
Right.
it's over, one episode and done.
Yeah. So you're like being intentional and you're
Yeah.
kind of setting yourself up ahead of time. Okay, I know I'm going to do this. And that way, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to go about it.
But I
I
do
would
want to
also,
get back into like, I do want to get back into like not watching TV at all, like
yeah,
during the week at least, and going back to like my reading of my
your
books,
books. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. Those are good. Those are good habits. But again, like, baby steps and don't be too hard on yourself. Like watching a show is not the end of the world before you go to bed.
Exactly. I know exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to say one other thing that I like to do that also has been shown to be really helpful with sort of your circadian rhythm and getting yourself on that proper sleep cycle is, and this will be easy for you being in Florida, is getting the sun on your face in the morning. So just
Oh,
like within like first half an hour of waking, I mean, I like to go for a walk. Right now, it's still not light. It's just starting to get light and, first thing in the morning here, but
where are you again?
Vancouver.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bundle
So
up.
we're a little further north than you. Um, but spring is almost here. So,
Yay.
but yeah, so it's a bit harder in the winter, but getting up and just going for, 10-15 minute walk and get that sun on your face, get the light, because you basically want that light into the back of your eye to get it basically into your brain and that sort of gets the circadian rhythm going,
Oh,
and all the hormones that are connected and all the cell signaling that's connected to the circadian cycle. So that also gets everything set up for like a proper cycle and sleep and all the rest. So
wow.
um, that's a big piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you shouldn't like, if my mother listens to this episode,
Yeah.
she has this very bad habit. She's older. She's like 77, but
Yeah.
she has this very bad habit of
Yeah.
falling asleep with the TV on and leaving it on literally all night
Oh my
long.
goodness.
Not good, mom. Really not good. That's a
Mom,
no-no.
mom, mom.
Come on now, mom. Mikel says that's a no.
Turn the TV off.
Turn the TV off. So she shouldn't be doing that. That must really screw
Yeah.
you up.
Well, probably not giving her the most optimal sleep, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Oh
Yeah.
my
But
gosh.
some people like a little bit of background noise when they sleep.
Yeah,
So,
that's true too.
I guess it just depends. I mean, if it's really loud and blaring and bright in her face, probably it's not helping. But, if it's just like some background noise that she can kind of incorporate, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, I still like to. keep like a little sound machine on, like ocean
Yeah.
waves or anything like
Yeah.
that. I cannot sleep in a room that's completely silent anymore, especially
Yeah.
after raising like three little kids and having the monitor next to my bed and
Right.
hearing the sound
Yeah.
machine come through the monitor. Now I can't sleep without one.
Oh my gosh, hilarious.
I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just like a toddler.
Yeah. Some people like having that, the
Yeah.
background noise for sure. That can help.
So how does this all ties into like helping you live longer, right? Like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it affects like every other area of your life, or what would you have to say
Yeah.
about that?
Well, sleep ties in because it affects your hormone system, your immune system, like I said, blood glucose control. It gives a chance for your cells to restore. It helps with your memory. So, it's tied to all those pieces of longevity. So, they're still kind of working out all the different pieces that are connected to longevity. But that's essentially a big part of it, like all those things I mentioned, your immune system,
Yeah.
inflammation. So we know that inflammation is a huge piece of getting older and aging. So that's kind of how sleep is tied in. And then when we talk about like longevity, I know you said you wanted to live to 100 and um, at least.
Yeah.
Actually, at the last conference I was at, I think it's generally accepted like within the next 3 years because of all the advances that are coming with the assistance of AI, most people are going to be living to well over 100. Like
Really? That is amazing.
yeah, that's just kind of a given at this point in that community. So
What,
that's
how will
pretty
they
exciting.
like, did you get any more information about that? Any
Yeah,
inside scoop?
well, yes, so I can share a little bit, but I was just going to say, like, back to the point of like longevity. So, but I mean, it's great that you're feeling, lots of people will say, well, I don't want to live till past 100 because their image of like living past 100 is like,
Right.
being partly demented and in a
Yeah, no, I
wheelchair,
don't want that.
right?
I want to be
So,
functional and
yeah,
moving
so
and
that's
vibrant.
exactly it. So that's exactly it. So when we talk about longevity, we're not just talking about like number of years. We're talking about how we're living and like living vi as you just as you said, being vibrant and living well past 100, but being able to, participate in life in a meaningful and positive and energetic way. So adding like
Yes.
more healthy years to our life. And that's really the ultimate goal. Like
That would be
nobody wants
amazing.
like shriveled, in
No,
a wheelchair and
no, no, it
just
sucks.
yeah, that nobody wants that. So
No.
I just wanted to be clear about that's sort of what we're talking about here.
Right.
And yeah, so I think well, having an understanding of like the pieces of longevity or pieces of aging that I talked about, like the inflammation, a lot of like the mitochondrial, what the mitochondria are these like basically the part of our cells that kind of help with energy production. And so that's another piece of it is like maintaining our mitochondria so that they're able to, they're working optimally. And then dealing with like there's just pieces of ourselves that we kind of know are connected to sort of getting older and what kind of starts to happen as we age. So just optimizing those different pieces. But
So cool.
yeah, so I think like in terms of sort of as we get older, like or what are the things that sort of cause people to age poorly? It's, memory, so getting it like neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and
Yeah.
Parkinson's, that kind of stuff. And then there's, obviously cancers and then heart disease and all those. So just I think just to answer your question, there's all sorts of new technologies that are coming in to basically reverse, not even just stop it, but reverse the effects of like heart disease, reverse neurodegenerative diseases, and basically like go in there and just
Wow. That is
basically
crazy.
attack the cancers even before they started, or if they've already, started, spreading to basically attack it and like directly attack the cancer cells. Whereas like, chemotherapy attacks
Right.
cancer cells, but also attacks healthy cells. That's why people get
Exactly.
sick. But there's more and more better targeted approaches for cancer. So it's
That is
all
so cool.
happening, which is really exciting.
That is really, really awesome. That is
Yeah.
so exciting. So we just have to hang on for 3 more years, guys.
Yes, exactly. That's the take-home message. You got it without me even saying it.
Yeah, hang tight for 3 more years, everyone, and we're gonna all make it till way past
Yeah,
100.
yeah. And so I was gonna, yeah. So for me, I think like kind of knowing that those therapies are coming, the other really big piece of longevity that I feel strongly about that I think we all could use some help with is sort of managing our nervous system.
Mm,
And because I think like those approaches will come, and then we just have to figure out basically like how to manage our stress,
yeah,
how to kind of focus on like meaning and purpose in life
yeah.
and
When
how to
you
manage
say,
energy.
when you say manage your nervous system, like, what do you mean? Like
Well,
how?
I mean,
Like, what does that mean to
what does
someone?
that
Like, how can
mean?
they do that?
Well, I mean, it's a bit it's complicated. Like, so yeah, that's a very, you're right, very general statement.
Yeah,
And there's so many different ways to approach it. But I feel like our nervous system, so our brain, our spinal cord, all our nerves, they are like such an important piece of the puzzle because they also connect with our like our hormones and connect and they signal throughout the system throughout our body. So we want to make sure like we know that stress can cause our brain to basically shrivel up. So it's
yeah.
all connected, right? So we
Mm.
need to so when I say manage our nervous system, I really mean like manage our energy,
Okay.
manage our thought because we now know also like our thoughts can produce, hormones can produce changes in our body. So managing our thoughts, like what thoughts are we thinking that are, you know, causing our body harm, you
Right.
know? And so managing our thoughts, like being aware of our thoughts and shifting those beliefs that are not serving us. So that's a big piece of it. Then there's like managing our stress and our high stress and how we can shift our body to be more grounded. So there's so many different pieces of it, becoming more aware of our body. Like I think most of us grow up not really connecting with our body and realizing how much wisdom our body can share with us in
Yeah.
terms of intuition and things like that. So there's different pieces of that, but I feel like that's also a really important piece that, yeah, most of us don't know how, like, don't have it optimized
Yeah.
unless you're intentional about it and just really kind of focus on the different pieces and
That's so
um,
cool, though. There's so much to it.
yeah, yeah. So that's the stuff that I like kind of working at with and
I
kind
know.
of,
I love that. I
uh,
love learning about that kind of stuff and
yeah,
hearing anything about it. It's really interesting. What about like the person who's listening right now and is like super overwhelmed with all this information?
I know.
Like, what if they're like, "Oh my God,"
It's a
because
lot.
there's a lot. I mean, there definitely is
There's
a
a
lot.
lot. Yeah.
Would you like pick a specific, would you tell them to like pick a specific area or what area
Yeah. I
in
mean,
their
I think,
life?
yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, again, you have to kind of, again, sort of pick the area that you think you can work on, or maybe like where, like, I mean, there's also nutrition and how you're feeding
Yeah.
your, like, how you're feeding your body. So that's a big piece of it. And we now know again that there's so many, like, a lot of the like phytonutrients, so the nutrients that are in plants can ask can work at a cellular level and change our genes, like how our
Wow.
genes operate and stuff. So, I mean, there's tons of different pieces. And again, like not to say this to sort of get overwhelmed, but just like there are different areas where you can make changes. So I would say like maybe like doing like a check-in with yourself, like where do you think there's the most room to make changes and where can you make changes most easily? So and then we didn't talk about exercise, but I think exercise, sleep, and nutrition are like the core pillars of all of this, right? So making sure you're moving your body throughout the day, like just simply not, it could be as simple as like if you're sitting all day, well, get up every hour and just move your body, like do
Right.
some squats or walk around the room or whatever. Just paying attention to,
Yeah.
um, So maybe just start with kind of doing a review of like how you're spending your day, or, how you're moving, like what kind of exercise you're doing, what kind of movement you're doing, what kind of foods are you putting into your body,
Yeah.
you sleep, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And because I do feel like I know like a lot of the circle of friends that I have, for example, who are like in
Yeah.
their 40s, mid 40s, I feel like
Yeah.
just a really common theme is like, I just don't have any energy. Like I
Yeah.
feel so low on energy all the time. And so,
Yeah.
when you're feeling low on energy,
Yeah.
you don't want to eat the healthier foods. You definitely don't
Yes.
want to get up and do a workout or anything because you're like,
Yes.
I'm so tired. And
Exactly.
then it's just like this vicious cycle.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
tough.
no, and that's exactly it. So doing like an energy, like sometimes I like to look at it as like where, what things are you doing that's kind of draining your energy? And then what things are you doing that are kind of filling your energy bucket up, right? And
Yeah.
just
Oh, that's
like
good.
doing like looking at it like that and then kind of seeing, well, where can I make some changes? So that's sometimes helpful. But yeah, it does sometimes run into a vicious cycle. That's why I say we'll start with something simple, like just getting up and doing some squats.
Yeah.
Like don't, you don't have to go from like feeling low energy to running a marathon the next day.
We don't want to do that.
It's just like you want to make little changes over time. You don't want to beat yourself up. We're all like, that's another thing that I think is so important is being like compassionate with yourself and
Yeah.
having self-compassion. So really, that's why I feel like the way you talk to yourself and how you know, what kind of thoughts you, you bring in is so important, even
I know.
through this. If you're trying to make changes, you got to start with that to make sure that you are being compassionate with yourself.
I know. I feel like that's really hard for a lot of people. Most people, we are so
Yeah,
easy to,
yeah,
it's so easy to criticize ourselves and to beat ourselves up and
yeah,
constantly just talking crap in our own head about ourselves. But it's like, well, if you
yeah.
actually took a step back and like your best friend was coming to you with these struggles, you would never ever say that to your
Exactly.
best friend.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it's funny because I've done that exercise many times and I've always said, oh, or I used to believe, oh, I don't talk to myself. Like I actually talk to myself. I have self-compassion. But then when you actually do the exercise,
Yeah.
and you're like, no, I would never say that to a friend,
I know.
um, like you catch yourself. Okay, so yeah, maybe you're not like, you're not swearing at yourself, but you're not talking to yourself in a way that is really is really compassionate,
Exactly.
in a way that you would talk to your friend. So it was funny. I had that, aha moment, like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I could do better with the way I talk to myself.
I know. Yeah. I know it happens to us all. I mean, even me, I'm a
Mhm.
mindset
Yeah,
coach. That's exactly what I teach
yeah,
is like basically
yeah,
how to reframe your thoughts and everything. And I
yeah,
even catch
yeah,
myself when
yeah,
something doesn't work out the way I wanted to, or,
yeah,
the launch didn't go as planned or,
yeah,
anything. I find myself sometimes
yeah,
catching myself like, wait a minute. No, no, no.
exactly.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah, but I think that's the key, like having the awareness. Like once you have the
Right.
awareness, then of course you're gonna like your brain is gonna feed you thoughts. You don't have to accept them, right?
Right.
And that's the key. Like, so the key is just being aware and just saying, no, I reject that thought,
Yeah, I
you
know.
know,
Not over here. Not today.
right? So just not getting too associated with the thoughts that your brain is feeding you, right? It's
This has been amazing. I feel like I need another part two, like for the other areas of expertise here.
Oh, well, it's been so much fun.
This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for taking your time today. Did you have any words that you wanted to leave us with today? Anything that was still lingering?
No, I mean, I just think you guys are doing awesome. The fact that you're even here listening is, like above and beyond. So just keep doing that. Don't be hard on yourself. Make sure you're being compassionate with yourself and just keep going out there and trying to be your best self. I think it's awesome.
Oh, I love it. You are so incredible. Where can people
Thanks.
find you if they want to reach out and connect with you? I'll make sure it's all in the show notes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Mikel Segal MD. I'm also on Facebook, but more on Instagram, I'd say is probably the best way. I also have a website, which is also Mikel Segal MD, www. And yeah, those are the
And you
main.
will be having a podcast
Oh yeah,
coming
my
soon.
podcast will be coming out soon. Yes, Essential Wellness. So stay tuned for that. But that's a new exciting piece that I'm working on. Yeah, so connect. I'm easy to connect with. I'd love to hear from you. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's great. I can't wait to listen to your podcast when it comes out too. It'll
Oh,
be
thank
super
you,
helpful.
Kathy.
Well,
Oh,
thank you so much for being on today. And thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed
yeah.
the show. And you know I love you, and I will see you the next time. Bye. Thanks so much for listening in. I really appreciate you choosing to spend your time here with me today. You totally rock. Hey, listen, if you loved today's episode, go ahead and tag me on social and go share this with a friend right now. Like, do it immediately before the day gets ahead of you and you totally forget. Couldn't be more pumped to be on this journey with you guys. Go make today awesome, and I will see you the next time.